All right, straight from the heart of the parks. Take a look at this from Blog Mickey. First look at construction for Stream, replacing Rivers of America in Cars-themed area of Frontierland. I'm going to tell you, I don't even think it's a stream. It's a trickle. There are mini golf courses, putt-putt as some of you say, that are bigger than this one. While visiting Magic Kingdom recently, we tried to get a sneak peek at the work taking place in the former Rivers of America basin for a new Cars-themed area called Piston Peak National Park. We rode Tiana's Bayou Adventure for an elevated view of the work and then got a sneak peek showing how much the project has expanded. Here's a look around, and they've got the pictures you can now see. And Vash, this is very unimpressive. We've talked about this, what was supposed to be and what will be quite different, I think, than the concept art. But this is the area we were looking at. This is just the Cars attraction. And you can see the original concept art, and you had this raging river with waterfalls and all this stuff. And they're gonna fix it, man. They're gonna fix it. They're gonna put the water back. And now, if we go down here, we believe this is the size and the width of the water. We can go down here to where this is what they're saying, is that this is literally where the stream is going to be. Now, I'm quite harsh about this. I think this is silly. However, I respect Jim Shull, former Imagineer. Jim Shull has a different opinion than me, and I'll take that into consideration, and maybe he's right, maybe I'm wrong. But Jim Shull says, given the choice between a lively mountain stream with waterfalls and noise versus a slow and wide river, I'd pick the stream. We'll see the results when the roast is finished cooking, and there's another picture of what appears to be the stream. Now, Vash, the reason that Blog Mickey is saying this is the stream and not, work for the mountains is because it's buried into the ground, one. Two, it has that meandering design that really wouldn't work for a building, even if you're going to build mountains. And then two, they go on and show what it looks like when Disney's preparing to do mountain work, and this doesn't look anything like that.
Right.
So, Vash, this is going to be a really, really small stream of water. Your thoughts on whether or not Disney can make that look good when we get to the finished outcome?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it was tacked on. I don't think this was the original design that our Imagineers were going with. They got so much pushback and criticism, though, that they kind of, I think, incorporated this into the design, which is why it's as narrow as it is. It's not really a main design feature. I think it does look like, to me at least, rather than a meandering pathway or something else, this does look like a stream to me.
Versus this. This is what versus this.
And you have to understand, right? You have a steam wheeler going through this when Walt Disney World first opens. It's 2, right? And so that's why it is the width that it is. So I don't think it's any surprise that this is narrower now without these vessels navigating these waterways. That being said, though, it's not nearly as impressive, and hopefully the rock work actually does make up for it. But it just doesn't seem like a really big design element. It seems like it was kind of strewn or laid in there late in the game, and that's why it's as narrow as it is, and which is really unfortunate, because that whole area around there really was built and supported by this idea of water, this very naturalistic setting, and so to diminish that to this degree, I think is most unfortunate for a place that has always been synonymous with water.
MJ, I know that you are a big fan of Rivers of America, Tom Sawyer Island, the beauty of Magic Kingdom. Your thoughts on just how diminished this is? Hank Hill, MJ says no, pass for the moment. We'll go to Ron instead. Ron, this reminds me of King of the Hill, where Hank Hill keeps saying that, Peggy, be quiet, don't tell people I've got a narrow urethra. I think the Magic Kingdom just got a narrow urethra. I'm determined to make MJ laugh. That's not how I was going to say it before, and I thought, I'm going to make MJ laugh.
It's really heartbreaking. It's just, I can't even look at it anymore. Every time I look at it, my heart just completely sinks to my stomach. And then showing the construction on what they're doing with the new Cars thing, it's just, it hurts my soul.
Is that because Walt, this was one of the only attractions Walt really had direct input for Magic Kingdom, because he passed away before construction even began? Is that one of the reasons that it bothers you so?
100% one of the reasons why. And not only that, this is a place where it's a born attraction with the opening of the resort, and it's where most of us have memories with our family, close friends, loved ones. We have photos and videos. This is not, you know, a regular attraction. This is Walt's passion, his vision, his dream, what he wanted. This is America.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, there's something seriously wrong with you. I'll let Ron take it because
we'll go to Ron, and then Ron, after we get to you, I want to come back to this issue of land. Vash, I'm going to come back to you after Ron. I want to ask you, I want to pick your brain on how much land they have and whether or not they could have done everything they're doing without destroying this. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I cannot see this in any other way than as an absolute personal insult to Walt Disney himself. And there's a very specific reason why. And it has to do with my history. It has to do with Walt's history. We both were brought up in Missouri. We were both brought up in the place where the rivers of America, the Mississippi, the Ohio, and the Missouri all converge. That was St. Louis. He was born in Chicago and then moved later on to the Kansas City area outside Marceline, Missouri. And this, the Missouri caves, the whole westward expansion idea started there in Missouri, in Walt's home state, right? And this was all, that's why this was so important to him. He put it in Disneyland. He absolutely wanted it at the Magic Kingdom. And it is the American frontier. It was the westward expansion. It is so much of a part of history. It was, you know, they could have even changed the story to move it away from Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. They could have done that and left the island there and made it something else that was part of the frontier, and it would have been fine. Maybe some people took offense to the fact that of what the natives were called by Tom and Huck in the book, whatever. I don't care, but they should have left and preserved that island. And they should have left the rivers of America. All of this was so much a part of Walt that I just can't see it as anything but a personal insult. And then to put cars, which makes no sense in there, it's just, it's far more than heartbreaking to me.
yeah.
This is the one thing about that Walt Disney World is doing that actually angers me. Like, it really, really ticks me off that they're doing this. This is an insult to the fans, an insult to everybody that's loved Disney, an insult to Walt, an insult to his family. And I just think that this is disgusting and should never, ever have been a part of the Magic Kingdom.
When you watch the documentary on how Disneyland was filmed, the blood, sweat, and tears of those men building the riverboat and putting together the rivers of America, if that doesn't do anything to you, then you're soulless. You don't you're just heartless. You know, it's absolutely amazing, that documentary. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's
Disneyland
beautiful.
Disneyland handcrafted by Leslie Iwerks, to MJ's point right there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, but
no, I'm done.
The riverboat. Remember, you have to understand, the Mark Twain was one of the first steam wheelers of its kind built in like 80 years or something, and that was personally financed by Walt himself through cashing out his life insurance policy. That's how much he believed in this idea that he wanted a steam wheeler within his park, and really, I think, really set Disneyland apart right from jump as something different, something that wasn't an amusement park, but something that was more scenic, atmospheric, and et cetera. And I think the installation of this Cars type attraction, right, in this spot, I think it reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes Disney parks different. Because this is the idea of replacing the rivers of America was all about, okay, this is what Jeff Valley says, underutilized, right? In terms of its square footage, it doesn't make us any money. It only absorbs money, right? Because maintaining an old-fashioned steam wheeler is very expensive. You have parts that you're probably looking to fabricate rather than buy off the shelf, right? Maintaining a river like that obviously is an extraordinary cost, and 2 goes for what's on the island itself. So if you're talking about something that only takes money, then something that makes money via like a new e-ticket attraction that has Lightning Lane, right? And that has a large consumer footprint, because Cars is still a revenue driver for little boys who are interested in vehicles at a young age. It is one of the most profitable for them. So from that mindset, you understand what they're doing. And I think Pro, I think you were going to ask about capacity and whether or not they could have done this anywhere else. It wasn't about that.
Let me just show this real quick, Vash.
Go ahead,
this was the plan, as best I can tell, from the late Eddie Sato. Big fans here of the channel. We loved getting to talk with Eddie behind the scenes, and we miss him dearly. This, as far as I can tell, was the plan Eddie came up with. One of the last things he ever did to try to convince Disney you don't have to destroy the Rivers of America. Folks, you can see it would have involved having the loop down there just as usual. The boat could have kept doing the loop. And then it would have connected with the canal, but you still had 26 acres of property that you could develop for attractions, and you could have had the Cars ride slightly north of where it is right now, and then a massive Villains Land that stretched the entire northern part of Magic Kingdom. They didn't want to do this, Vash. They didn't want to use 26 acres.
Of course.
Now we've got parking lots. And a lot of people don't know this, but the biggest thing they're adding so far with this expansion, parking lots.
Yes, because they some of what they're doing will require support infrastructure, but the reason why they didn't decide to just expand the Magic Kingdom, right, was because they would have had to put out additional funds and money to support those investments. So you would have, if you would have considerably expanded the capacity of Magic Kingdom, you would have had more parking. You would have had to deal with more cast members. You would have had to deal with more back-end infrastructure to support that. And they just simply didn't want to do that.
Which is crazy. That means they don't want to increase capacity.
Right,
they just want to raise prices.
Of course. They just want to raise prices. And they want to reduce expenses, Pro. What was really interesting about the last earnings call was that entertainment for the company actually did bring in more money than parks. I think it was $11.41 billion versus $10 billion for the experiences division. The reason why the experiences division was a bigger story is because it contributed in terms of profit 3 times the amount. So off of $11.41 billion for the entertainment division, and they only made $1 billion. And you can imagine if Zootopia never came in for them, how detrimental that would have been for them. But when it comes to the experiences division, they made $3 billion. Why? Because of aggressive moves like this, the over monetization of the parks and the reduction of expenses is how they get to that $3 billion figure. This is very consistent with that philosophy. But again, though, what makes Disney parks different? Walt knew it back in the 50s, that you have experiences like this that don't necessarily contribute to the overall revenue or profit and are expenses to maintain, but it sets you apart from your competition because there was nothing like this in Florida, and there's a whole bunch of dirt tracks as we've seen in the surrounding Florida area.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I'll tell you one more thing about this is there's a soundscape issue. And think about that with me, ladies and gentlemen. There's a soundscape issue. One of the things that you could hear and you just knew you were in a special place, unlike any other, is when you were riding the ferry or when you were outside the entrance to Magic Kingdom. There was a combination, the sound of the train, the horn blowing, combined with the sound of the ferry. Those two together created a sound that's unlike anything anywhere, and you could hear it ringing across the lake. And taking that away, I'm sorry, but there are just things that put you somewhere else. When you're going to Typhoon Lagoon and you hear Miss Tilly blow that horn at the top, or when you hear the big wave take off, I'm at Typhoon Lagoon.
Yeah,
it's a
remember when they would communicate back and forth the train with the boat.
Yeah.
You
remember that?
Those are such special moments, especially because you might be riding one or the other. And you had you're on the boat, and then the captain of the boat he starts blowing the steam whistle to the train. The train blows back, and they're communicating, and you're just like, that was Disney magic that doesn't get created anywhere else and will no longer exist at the Magic Kingdom. They ought to change the name.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.